To start talking about muscular adaptations with this unit or with this video. And remember, this is aerobic training. So some of the things that you might be thinking of that happen, odds are you're thinking about adaptations that occur with resistance training or anaerobic training. So again, same two objectives essentially for this unit for this video as we've had for the last two. Just what happens to the muscle and why are these beneficial? So to start off, we've talked several times about fiber type. And when you go out and train, you use a muscle, it gets bigger. We have hypertrophy occur, which we'll talk about more during the resistance training unit next week. And so when you hear hypertrophy, just think bigger. Now this happens primarily in type 1 fibers because when we're doing aerobic training, we're using type 1 fibers, we're not using type 2 fibers. Okay. Generally speaking, there doesn't appear to be a lot of change in fiber type, although as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, it appears that it might be possible for 2X fibers to turn to 2A. So we're taking these glycolytic fibers and we're helping them, or they're turning into something that's more oxidative, fiber types that are more oxidative. Now, when we're using aerobic fiber types, they need oxygen, and so they need to be able to get this oxygen into the blood cell. All right, we've talked about the cardiovascular adaptations, and so one of the things that happens that's kind of directly tied to the cardiovascular side is that we increase the capillary density to those muscles. Okay, this allows for more oxygen to get into a muscle cell. It's much easier for oxygen to get into a muscle cell. There's lots of locations, that sort of thing. And this, like it says here, is one of the biggest changes to increased VO2 max, especially as we go from untrained to trained. Okay, I've said several times in class, I can have all of the oxygen in the world, okay, but if it's sitting, outside and it can't get into the muscle cell, well, that does me no good. The capillaries are those doors that let the oxygen come into the muscle. Now, once it gets inside the muscle, though, the job isn't done. It actually needs to get to the mitochondria, and this is where something called myoglobin plays a role. Okay, so just like oxygen binds to hemoglobin in the blood, well, oxygen binds to something called myoglobin inside the muscle. And the job of myoglobin is it's just the transport system within the cell to get oxygen from the inside of the cell specifically to the mitochondria. Okay, and so as we train, we actually increase the amount of myoglobin that's in our muscle cell, which means we can carry more oxygen, get more oxygen to the mitochondria, and ultimately, like it says here, we've got increased muscle, or the muscle's oxidative capacity increases. All right. In order to maximize how much oxygen we can use and take advantage of, well, remember, like we just said, we use it in the mitochondria. And so I need bigger, more mitochondria, and this also happens due to training. So we increase the number of mitochondria. That means I'll be able to produce more, be able to utilize oxygen to produce more ATP. If I've got bigger mitochondria, each mitochondria can now produce more ATP, and so we'll have higher oxidative capacity. All right, and so this training does this by increasing the size and increasing the number. All right, and this is one of those things where new is better than old, right? So generally speaking, people like new cars work better, they have the fancier gadgets, that sort of thing. They're more efficient than old cars. Same kind of idea. And then the last thing, and again, this relates to mitochondria, is that we increase the amount of enzymes, the oxidative enzymes, okay? We're not getting into specific ones here. But those oxidative enzymes are necessary so that we can go through the electron transport chain so that we can ultimately produce a whole bunch of ATP. And so as a result, what happens is we don't have to use our muscle glycogen stores. We're just able to take better advantage of what we bring into the cell, okay? And so that is the end of the muscular adaptations.